15 toxic habits you need to give up to win in life. And we're not just going to list them off, though. We're going to figure out why they're so sneaky and how we can break free.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these toxic habits, they kind of disguise themselves as harmless quirks, but they can really mess with your happiness and success.
Okay, so before we even get to the list, let's unpack what even makes a habit toxic?
Yeah.
What makes it different from, forgetting to empty the dishwasher?
I think it's all about impact and persistence. A toxic habit, it can get so ingrained.
Yeah.
It feels like you can't change it.
Right.
And it really works against your own well-being and goals.
Ah.
Imagine having a friend who constantly puts you down and discourages your dreams.
Yeah.
That's kind of what a toxic habit does.
Oh, wow.
But it's coming from inside you.
Ouch. Yeah, that's powerful. It's like when you hit snooze 5 times knowing you're going to be late, but you still do it anyway.
Exactly.
It's self-sabotage.
Yeah, and a lot of times these habits, they come from our comfort zones and our blind spots. We don't even realize how much they're hurting us until we kind of step back and look at it.
They're sneaky little devils.
Yeah.
So they're sneaky, they're ingrained, they're working against us. No wonder we need to ditch them. This article breaks it down to 15 of these sneaky saboteurs.
Right.
And to make it easier, we're going to group them into categories.
Okay, sounds good.
So first up, the time wasters. And leading the pack is the infamous procrastination.
Ah, yes, procrastination.
Everybody does it.
It's more than just laziness. Research actually suggests that 95% of people procrastinate to some degree.
Really?
It's about diverting our attention to less important things, even if they feel better in the moment.
Well, that makes me feel a little better about that time I spent an hour organizing my spice rack.
Sure.
Instead of finishing that report.
We've all been there.
Okay, good.
But the important thing to remember is procrastination. It gives you that temporary relief, but at the cost of long-term stress and that feeling of oh, why do I do this to myself?
It really impacts your sense of accomplishment, too.
Definitely.
Speaking of which, another time waster we got to tackle is chronic lateness.
Right.
And I don't mean running 5 minutes behind.
Yeah.
But a consistent pattern of just not respecting other people's time.
You got to think about the message you're sending when you're always late. It can come across as a lack of respect,
right?
Disorganization,
yeah,
even struggling with priorities, and it can hurt your relationships, professional and personal.
It's like saying my time is more important than yours. Yeah, good. Okay, let's move on to a category that can really mess with your mental well-being. The confidence crushers.
These are the habits that just chip away at your self-esteem.
Right.
Make you question your worth.
Yeah.
And one of the worst is jealousy.
Ooh, the green-eyed monster.
It's more than just a fleeting feeling, though.
Oh.
It often comes from a deep insecurity and dissatisfaction with your own life.
Yeah.
It makes you focus on what other people have instead of appreciating what you have.
Right.
And your own accomplishments and your unique qualities. And you get stuck comparing yourself to other people instead of focusing on your own growth.
And then we make it worse by, that negative self-talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like having this inner critic just constantly putting you down.
And there's actually research that shows even just brief exposure to negativity can trigger stress hormones.
Really?
So imagine constantly telling yourself, you're not good enough, or you're never going to succeed.
Oh, God.
It's like having a bully living rent-free in your head.
We wouldn't tolerate that from anyone else, so why do we do it to ourselves?
Right.
It becomes this background noise that just chips away at your confidence.
It can actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy too.
Oh.
If you keep telling yourself, I'm going to fail,
you probably will.
you're more likely to just give up before you even try.
So true. Which leads us to another confidence crusher. Settling for less. Playing small. Letting fear hold you back.
Staying in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Even when you know you could do more,
right,
you make excuses, tell yourself, this is good enough.
Yeah.
But over time, that dissatisfaction, it really weighs you down.
It's like we're dimming our own light.
Yeah.
So how do we stop settling?
It's not about constantly striving for something more. It's more about honoring your desires and pushing yourself a little bit beyond what feels comfy.
Okay.
Embrace the unknown. Believe that you're worthy of going after what you want, even if it's a little scary.
You deserve to thrive, not just survive. All right, ready for the next category? This one is all about how our habits can impact our connections with other people. The relationship wreckers.
Oh, this is a good one.
I know, right?
Relationships are so important to our well-being.
Absolutely.
But these habits can cause some serious damage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And first up is a habit that can make even the most patient person cringe. Monopolizing conversations.
Oh, yeah.
You know that person who just can't stop talking about themselves?
We all know that person.
Yeah, they might mean well, but they're missing the whole point of a conversation.
Conversations are a two-way street.
Right.
It's about give and take, active listening,
Yeah.
genuine interest in the other person.
Yes.
When you dominate the conversation, you're missing out on really connecting with them on a deeper level.
And you're missing out on learning from their experiences
Absolutely.
and their perspective.
Exactly.
Speaking of perspective, let's talk about another relationship wrecker. Jumping to conclusion.
Oh, yeah, this one's dangerous.
I know.
It's about making snap judgments without having all the facts,
Right.
which can lead to misunderstandings and conflict that you don't need.
And this is especially dangerous in close relationships, right?
Yeah.
We might misinterpret what our partner is saying,
Yeah,
assume the worst, and then react defensively.
totally.
All before we even have the full picture.
It erodes trust over time because if you're constantly second-guessing what your partner is thinking,
Yeah,
you're not allowing space for open and honest communication.
that makes sense. Which brings us to a habit that can be so tempting,
Oh, yeah.
but so harmful.
Like blame shifting.
Blame shifting.
It's like a reflex for some people.
It is.
Something goes wrong and it's immediately someone else's fault.
It's a way of avoiding responsibility,
Right.
protecting your ego, but it keeps you from learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, it's easier to point the finger than to look in the mirror.
Right. And what's even more interesting is that it can actually be a form of self-abandonment.
Self-abandonment.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it that way.
When you're always blaming other people, you're basically saying, my feelings don't matter. It's all their fault.
Oh.
You're not allowing yourself to process your emotions or take ownership
Wow, that's powerful.
of your part in the situation.
It prevents you from healing and moving forward. Exactly. It keeps you from addressing any underlying issues that might be contributing to the problem in the first place.
Okay, last but not least on our relationship wrecking roster, lying.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not talking about little white lies.
Oh,
We're talking about habitual dishonesty.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Lying, even if you think you're getting away with it, really damages your relationships. It creates this suspicion and unease. And once that trust is broken, it's so hard to rebuild it.
And it also speaks volumes about your character.
Yeah.
If you're constantly resorting to dishonesty.
It means you're not willing to be accountable for your actions.
Right, it's like living in a house of cards.
Yeah. Could all come crashing down.
Exactly. Speaking of shaky foundations, our next category is all about the mental traps that keep us stuck. The mindset traps.
Okay, love it.
And one of the classics is waiting for the perfect moment.
Oh, yeah.
I'll start tomorrow trap.
Yeah, tomorrow never comes.
It never does.
The truth is, there's never a perfect moment. There will always be something that feels like it's not quite right. Waiting for that perfect moment is really just another form of procrastination.
Oh, it's like you're standing on the sidelines of your own life
Exactly.
instead of getting in the game.
So true.
So how do we escape this trap?
Just remember that life is messy,
Yeah.
it's unpredictable, and action is the antidote to fear and uncertainty.
Okay,
The more you act, the more confident you become.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's talk about another mindset trap that can be especially tough in today's social media world. Comparing yourself to others.
Oh, this is a big one.
It's so easy to scroll through those perfectly curated feeds and feel like you're not enough.
And it's important to remember that everyone is on their own unique journey.
Right. Comparing yourself to others is like comparing apples to oranges.
Exactly.
It's not a fair comparison.
It's not.
And it only leads to feeling bad about yourself and being envious.
Yeah. And remember, social media often shows you the highlight reel,
Right.
not the full picture.
It's all filters and posed pictures.
So next time you find yourself scrolling and comparing,
Yeah.
just remember, you're running your own race.
You are, okay. Our last mindset trap for this part is one that can be really tough. Living in the past.
This one can be painful.
I know.
It's about holding on to past hurts, regrets, mistakes,
Yeah.
and letting them define your present and your future.
Right.
And it's totally understandable to feel pain and sadness over things that have happened. But at some point, you have to make a conscious choice to let go.
It's like you're carrying around this heavy suitcase.
Full of baggage.
Yeah,
The past is gone.
it is.
And you can't change it, but you can choose to learn from it.
Right.
And use those lessons to create a brighter future.
Acknowledge the pain, honor the lessons, and choose to move forward.
That's it.
All right, ready for our final category for today?
Hit me.
This one's all about the habits that prevent us from taking care of our most valuable asset, ourselves.
Self-care?
Yes, we're calling it the self-care saboteurs.
Love it.
We all know how important self-care is, but it's so easy to let it slide when things get busy.
It is.
And one of the biggest self-care saboteurs is lack of self-love.
Yeah, this is about neglecting your own needs.
Uh-huh.
Both physical and emotional.
Yeah.
Putting everyone else's needs before your own.
It's like running on empty.
Yeah, constantly giving to others, but forgetting to fill your own cup.
And then you end up feeling burnt out.
Resentful.
Yeah.
Depleted.
So cultivating self-compassion is key.
Absolutely.
I mean, setting boundaries, saying no.
Yes.
Making time for things that bring you joy.
And recharge your batteries.
Exactly. And our final self-care saboteur for this part is one that impacts our overall well-being. Neglecting our physical health.
It's so easy to let healthy habits slip.
I know, I'm totally guilty of this one.
When life gets busy, it's hard.
Yeah.
But even small changes can make a big difference.
Like what?
It could be going for a walk,
Okay.
choosing healthier snacks, getting an extra hour of sleep.
It's not about being perfect.
No.
It's about making small, consistent choices
Exactly.
that create a foundation of well-being.
That's it.
And that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into toxic habits.
We covered a lot.
We did, but stay tuned for part 2, where we're going to explore some practical strategies for breaking free from these sneaky saboteurs.
Looking forward to it.
All right, see you soon.
See ya.
Welcome back. In part 1, we explored 15 common toxic habits.
Yeah, those sneaky behaviors that can really mess with your happiness and success.
Yeah, and how they can creep into your life like they're these harmless little quirks.
Right, totally.
But ultimately, they're holding you back.
Yeah.
We covered a lot, like from procrastination and chronic lateness to like negative self-talk and settling for less.
Oh, and don't forget those relationship wreckers.
Oh, yeah.
Like jumping to conclusions and blame shifting.
Those can really impact your connection.
For sure. And then those self-care saboteurs.
Yeah.
They can just leave you feeling drained.
Totally. But now let's like shift gears and talk about solutions.
Yeah, let's get practical.
Okay, so what are some things we can actually do to break free from these patterns?
One strategy I really like is habit replacement.
Okay.
It's the idea that it's easier to replace a bad habit with a good one than to just try to eliminate it completely.
That makes sense, like you're filling the void with something positive.
Exactly. So let's say you're struggling with procrastination.
Okay.
Instead of just forcing yourself to do that task, you're avoiding.
Yeah.
Think of something fun you can do after you make some progress.
So it's like a reward system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You create positive associations and it makes it feel less overwhelming.
I like that. Train your brain to crave the good stuff.
Exactly. What other strategies can we use?
Yeah. What else?
Mindfulness is another powerful one.
Okay.
It's all about becoming more aware of your thoughts, feelings, and what's happening in your body.
Right.
Right. Without judgment.
So mindfulness, it's really about like paying attention to what's going on inside you.
Yeah. And when you're trying to break a toxic habit, mindfulness helps you notice those triggers.
Oh.
Those situations or emotions that lead to the bad behavior.
So like if you're trying to stop negative self-talk, mindfulness would help you like catch yourself in the act.
Exactly. And then you can choose to respond differently.
Oh.
Instead of beating yourself up, you can practice self-compassion.
Right. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah, offer yourself encouragement.
It's like becoming your own best friend instead of your own worst enemy.
I love that. And mindfulness can also help you notice the positive changes.
Well, that's good.
Even the small ones.
Yeah. Celebrating those little wins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shifting your focus from self-criticism to self-appreciation.
That's so important. But what about those habits that feel like they're really ingrained? Like they're part of who you are?
Yeah, that can be tough.
It can feel impossible to change something that feels like it's part of your identity.
That's where challenging your limiting beliefs comes in. These are those beliefs that tell you you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You're not smart enough. You can't do it.
Like they become self-fulfilling prophecy.
They do. If you believe you can't change, you probably won't.
So how do we start to challenge these beliefs?
So first, you got to become aware of them.
Okay.
What are the stories you're telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of?
Yeah, those inner narratives can be so powerful.
They really can. And once you've identified them, start questioning them.
Like how?
Ask yourself, are they really true?
Okay.
What evidence do I have to support these beliefs.
Okay.
A lot of times they're based on past experiences, fears, or messages we've internalized from other people.
Like we're carrying around these old, outdated scripts.
Totally. And once you've identified them, you can start replacing them with more empowering ones.
Okay, so instead of saying I'm a procrastinator,
Yeah,
you could say I'm capable of managing my time effectively.
exactly. You reframe those negative thoughts and replace them with positive affirmations that support your growth.
This is all great advice, but what about when we mess up?
Ah,
We're only human.
we are.
How do we handle those setbacks without getting discouraged?
Setbacks are a natural part of the process.
Okay.
Breaking a toxic habit, it's a journey, not a destination.
So don't beat yourself up if you slip up.
Exactly. See those slip-ups as opportunities to learn.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what triggered that behavior? What could I do differently next time?
It's like gathering data
Right?
to inform your next attempt.
And be kind to yourself in those moments.
Yeah.
You're human. You're allowed to make mistakes.
It takes the pressure off
Right.
of needing to be perfect.
The key is to learn from them and keep going.
I love that. Okay, we've explored some really helpful strategies
Yeah.
for breaking free from these toxic habits.
Mhm.
But before we move on, are there any other important points you want to highlight?
One thing I want to emphasize is that breaking a toxic habit isn't just about willpower or discipline.
So it's more than just like gritting your teeth and trying harder.
It's about really understanding the reasons behind the behavior
Okay.
and developing strategies to address those root causes.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier about self-compassion.
Right.
It's about recognizing that these habits often come from deeper issues.
Exactly like fear, insecurity, a lack of self-awareness.
And approaching yourself with kindness as you work on changing these patterns.
It's a journey, not a race.
I love that it takes the pressure off and reminds us that change takes time.
And remember, breaking free from these habits, it's not just about personal growth.
Okay.
It's about improving your relationships, your health, your overall well-being.
It creates a ripple effect.
Totally. When you make positive changes in one area,
Yeah.
it often spills over into other areas.
It's inspiring to think about the impact you can have on yourself and the people around you
Absolutely.
when you choose to break free.
It's worth it.
So well said. Well, we've covered a lot in part 2. Exploring all these strategies for breaking free
Yeah.
and creating lasting change. What are your final thoughts before we move on to part 3?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you have the power to change.
You do.
You're not a victim of your habits.
Right.
You're the architect of your own life.
That's so empowering.
Okay.
Listeners, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll wrap up this discussion and leave you with some final inspiration. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into toxic habits. I'm so glad we could finish up this conversation together.
Me too. It's been great.
We've explored those 15 common toxic habits. We dug into like how sneaky they are.
Yeah.
And we talked about some practical ways to break free.
Lots of good strategies.
Throughout this whole deep dive, though, we keep coming back to self-compassion.
Right.
Like, it's not about beating yourself up.
No?
It's about understanding that you're a work in progress.
It's a journey, not a race.
Exactly. And every step you take towards like breaking free from these habits, it's a win.
It is.
Celebrate those little wins. So as we wrap up, I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that have really resonated with you?
You know, one of the things that I think is so cool about this article
Yeah.
is that it really encourages us to look beyond the surface
Oh,
of these habits. Like, it's not just about stopping a specific behavior. It's about understanding the why.
Yeah, like, why am I doing this? What need is it trying to fulfill?
Exactly. Like procrastination, for example.
Okay.
Could be a way of dealing with anxiety or fear of failure.
Fear of failure.
Blame shifting.
Okay.
It could be to protect your ego.
It's all connected.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about addressing the root cause, not just the symptom.
Right. And the article had some really good tips for like self-reflection.
It did.
Like journaling, making lists,
Yeah.
getting feedback from people you trust.
It's a good reminder that you don't have to do this alone.
We need our people.
We do.
So if there's one thing I want listeners to take away from this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
it's that toxic habits, they're like these sneaky saboteurs that are holding you back
They're working against you.
from living your best life.
You got to stop those saboteurs.
Yes. But the good news is you can break free.
You have the power.
You do. It might not be easy,
Yeah, there will probably be setbacks.
but with awareness and effort
And self-compassion.
and support,
Yeah.
you can reclaim your power and create the life you want.
So true.
Now, before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay, I love a good question.
Something to think about as they keep going on this journey.
Okay, I'm ready.
Think about one specific toxic habit that's been holding you back.
Okay,
It could be anything we've talked about or something totally different.
got it.
Okay, now ask yourself, what's one small step you can take today to start breaking free from that habit?
Love that. You don't have to do everything at once.
Right, baby step.
Just one small step in the right direction.
Exactly. Remember, small changes done consistently can lead to big transformation.
Progress, not perfection.
We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, your aha moments, your struggles on social media.
We're all in this together.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep breaking free, and keep those toxic habits at bay.